The chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with noise, hundreds of alien voices speaking at once, their strange tongues echoing across the tall crystal walls. Glowing lights pulsed above the chamber, making shadows flicker over the delegates' faces. It was supposed to be a meeting about peace, but it had turned into a storm of pride and anger. At the center stood the human ambassador, a tall man in a simple dark uniform. He did not shout, he did not wave his arms like the others. He only waited until the noise dropped low enough for his voice to be heard. His calm tone cut through the chaos. He said the words slowly, each one heavy with warning. "If you no longer want us, we will walk away." For a moment, the chamber grew silent, so silent that even the humming of the light crystals could be heard. Aliens of every shape and color stared at him, some with shock, others with smirks on their twisted lips. One scaled delegate laughed loudly, his long neck swaying back and forth. "Humans think too highly of themselves," he said, his voice hissing like steam. "You were never the heart of the council. You were just tools for war." Another alien with silver skin and eyes like glass tapped his claws against the desk. "We are many. Humans are only one species. If they leave, the council will still stand strong." The laughter spread across the chamber, cruel and sharp. But not every delegate joined in. A few sat quietly, their eyes fixed on the human ambassador. They had seen human fleets in action. They remembered what human dreadnoughts could do when pushed. The ambassador's face did not change. He did not respond with insults. He only turned and walked away. His boots struck the crystal floor with a steady sound. Each step echoed. Each step a reminder that humans did not beg. Behind him, the chamber broke again into shouting. Some voices demanded humans be punished for their arrogance. Others demanded the council show strength. But under the noise there was also fear. The kind of fear that spread quietly and could not be spoken aloud. When the ambassador left the chamber, the human flag above the council seat shimmered for the last time. Slowly, the bright colors of Earth's emblem faded. The council's system AI removed it from the chamber's displays. Only alien banners remained. Far above the council planet, in orbit, the last Terran warship prepared to depart. Its long gray hull gleamed under the light of the twin suns. It was not the largest ship in the galaxy, but every alien who looked at it knew it carried the firepower of entire fleets. The ship's engines roared like thunder, shaking the skies as it turned toward the dark. Inside the council chamber, some tried to speak of unity. "This is good," said the silver-skinned delegate, his voice sharp. "Now the council will rule without fear. We no longer need human weapons or their reckless ways." But others whispered to one another, "Without humans, who will guard the borders, who will face the raiders, who will face the darkness beyond?" Their whispers were drowned by louder voices, proud voices that refused to admit worry. And the outer balcony of the chamber, an old alien leader leaned on his staff. His four eyes followed the trail of the departing human ship across the sky. His voice was soft, almost lost in the noise. "Fools, you do not understand. The humans were the wall that kept the darkness from our gates. Without them, the gates will fall." But no one listened. The council was too busy shouting, too busy convincing themselves that unity without humans would be stronger. In the human fleet, thousands of soldiers stood at attention as their ships moved away from council space. They said nothing. They felt no need to remind the galaxy of what humans had done before. The record of history was enough. The Battle of Draxus, the defense of 12 worlds, the crushing of pirate armadas that no other species could defeat. Humans remembered, and they knew the council remembered too. Still, the order was final. They were leaving. The galaxy had told them they were not wanted, and humanity never begged for respect. As the last human ship crossed into deep space, silence fell on the council's borders. Patrol routes once filled with Terran dreadnoughts went dark. Stations once guarded by human marines were now empty. The quiet seemed peaceful at first, but in that silence there was danger. A danger the proud voices of the council could not yet see. Back in the grand chamber, the scaled delegate who had laughed the loudest leaned forward with a grin. "You see, nothing has happened. The humans are gone. and we still stand. But deep in the void, where the light of suns could not reach, others were already watching. They had been waiting for the moment when humanity would no longer guard the stars. And so the first crack appeared in the Great Council, a warning ignored, a truth buried under pride. The humans had walked away, and though the aliens did not yet know it, the council had just begun to fall apart. Far from the shining halls of the council, silence spread across the galaxy like a shadow. For the first time in centuries, the space lanes once patrolled by Terran fleets were empty. The endless lines of human dreadnoughts, cruisers, and destroyers had always been there, moving like watchful wolves in the dark. Their presence had kept pirates, raiders, and even rival empires in check. But now those routes lay quiet, silent, waiting for something to test them. The news of humanity's departure traveled faster than light, carried by messengers, traders, and whispered by frightened voices in smoky spaceports. Some laughed and said good riddance. Humans were arrogant. Humans demanded too much respect. Now the council belongs to us alone, said proud leaders. With wide smiles and loud speeches, they declared a new age of alien unity. They told their people the humans were nothing but mercenaries in shiny ships. But not everyone believed those words. In the dim corners of the galaxy, on the edge colonies, there was no laughter. Farmers who had once seen Terran Marines arrive to drive away raiders now stood alone in fear. Station masters who had once depended on human escorts now looked nervously at empty skies. In their hearts, they wondered how long the silence would last before someone came to break it. The pirates came first, small and scattered bands that had always fled at the sight of a human flag. Their jagged ships cut through the dark, striking unguarded stations, burning colonies, and stealing whatever they could. The council's fleets tried to respond, but they were slow, clumsy, and divided. One species sent ships, another refused, arguing it was not their problem. Old rivalries surfaced in every meeting. The unity of the council was already cracking. In the great chamber, the silver-skinned delegate stood tall. "This is nothing," he said coldly. "A few pirates cannot frighten us. Our fleets are strong, stronger than humans ever were. Do not be fooled by whispers." His words filled the chamber, and the proud ones nodded. But in the far back of the hall, a small reptilian ambassador leaned close to his neighbor and whispered, "Humans would have ended this in a week." Out in the void, the Terran fleet traveled far from council space. Their ships moved in silence, their beacons dark. They did not interfere. They only watched. From the command bridge of the dreadnought Iron Resolve, Admiral Carter stood with his hands behind his back. The council had made their choice, and now humanity would honor it. Humans never begged to be wanted. Still, reports flowed into the Admiral's screens. Humans had their own scouts, their own intelligence. Every pirate raid, every council loss was recorded. No one in the fleet spoke loudly about it, but every soldier knew what it meant. The galaxy was testing itself without humans, and the cracks were already showing. On the council world, panic grew among the smaller species. Delegates from frontier colonies shouted in fear. They begged for more patrols, more protection. But the larger empires in the chamber dismissed them. "You exaggerate," they said. "The humans were only one fleet. We have thousands." Yet their fleets never left the core worlds. They guarded their own borders and ignored the cries of others. The silence after humanity's departure was not just empty space. It was the silence of trust breaking. The council had never truly been united by friendship or loyalty. They had been united by fear. Fear of human warships. Fear of Terran soldiers who never surrendered. Fear of the species that had risen from a death world and refused to bow. Now that fear was gone, and with it the only thing that had held the galaxy together, whispers grew louder. In markets, in mining camps, in academies, people asked the same question. What if the humans never come back? What if we drove them away forever? Some told stories of ancient wars when humans had saved entire civilizations. Some remembered the siege of Naros, where human fleets had stood alone against an armada while the council debated. Without those fleets, how long could anyone survive if something greater than pirates appeared? And then the first rumors began. Traders spoke of strange ships seen in the far dark, ships larger than any council vessel. Black hulls like shadows, lights that glowed red as dying suns. At first the council dismissed it. Lies, they said. Stories to frighten children. But the stories spread, system to system, always the same, always ships that moved like hunters waiting for prey. Back on the Terran fleet, Admiral Carter received the same reports. He stood silent on the bridge, eyes fixed on the stars. The council would not believe the danger until it was too late. Humanity had warned them. Humanity had walked away. Now the galaxy would learn what silence truly meant. In the chamber of the council, the proud voices still shouted, "We are strong without humans," they said. "We are safer without humans." But deep in their hearts, in the quiet hours when speeches ended, many of them feared the truth. The silence after humanity's departure was not peace. It was the sound of walls falling, one stone at a time, and far beyond the edge of known space. In the black oceans where light never reached, something else listened to that silence. Something vast, something patient, something that had been waiting for the humans to step aside. The galaxy thought it could stand without Earth, but already the cracks were spreading. Already the silence was filling with danger, and soon, that silence would be broken by scream. The cracks in the council grew wider with every passing day. What began as whispers in the dark was now open shouting in the grand chamber. Delegates no longer hid their anger. They slammed fists, claws, and tendrils on their desks, accusing each other of betrayal. The proud voices that once mocked humanity now shook with fear and suspicion. On the frontier worlds, the truth was clear. Without humans patrolling the skies, raiders became bolder, entire convoys vanished, stations sent distress calls that never received answers. Colonies burned while the council argued about whose responsibility it was to send ships. One reptilian envoy screamed in the chamber, his scales dull with exhaustion. "My people are dying. Our colonies are ash. You promised protection, but you send us nothing." The silver-skinned delegate rose with cold pride, his eyes glowing under the crystal lights. "Your colonies are not strategic. We cannot waste ships for small settlements. If humans had spoiled you by saving every rock you claimed, that is no longer our concern." His words drew cheers from some and furious cries from others. The chamber was no longer a hall of unity. It had become a battlefield of words. Behind the speeches, however, darker moves began. One council race sent warships into disputed territory, claiming it was for protection. Another launched a surprise strike against an old rival, capturing mines and trade routes. For centuries, such acts had been impossible, for humanity would have responded with steel and fire. But now there was no one to fear, no human fleets to force order. The first fracture had split wide open. In deep space, a convoy of merchant ships fled from pirates. They sent message after message begging for help. Council ships were ordered to intercept, but by the time they arrived, only wreckage remained. The pirates left the council's insignia floating in the void, painted over with mocking symbols. The council tried to hide the loss, but the story spread. Every station, every colony heard the same words. "The council cannot protect you." In the human fleet far beyond council space, Admiral Carter read the reports in silence. His officers exchanged grim looks. They had all predicted this. Humanity had not. Left in weakness, humanity had left because the council demanded it. And now the galaxy was seeing the cost. Carter's voice was steady as he addressed his captains. "We will not intervene, not yet. They chose this path." Meanwhile, the alien public began to turn against the council. On some worlds, riots broke out. Crowds shouted in the streets demanding answers, demanding to know why the humans were driven away. Soldiers tried to calm them but failed. Fear had turned to anger. Anger was turning to rebellion. Inside the council chamber, another shocking event shattered the last illusion of unity. A delegate from the insectoid Hyrax stood, trembling but defiant. "My government will no longer obey this council. You promised strength but gave us weakness. We will defend ourselves, and we will not listen to your commands." He left the chamber, his guards clicking angrily behind him. Within a week, two more races followed, walking out of the council. Each departure was like another stone falling from a collapsing wall. Panic spread to the military. Fleet commanders no longer trusted orders from the Council. Some swore loyalty only to their homeworlds. Others secretly prepared for war. The Grand Navy that once looked unstoppable was splitting apart into pieces, each fleet looking to its own. And in the shadows of the galaxy, the invaders stirred. Their scouts slipped through the borders, watching, measuring, waiting. They saw the fractures, they smelled the weakness. They had waited for the humans to leave. Now the path was open. Back in the chamber, the arguments reached a boiling point. Two delegates leapt from their places, claws and blades drawn. Guards rushed in, stunning weapons fired. For the first time in the Council's history, blood was spilled inside the chamber itself. The Council seal stained by violence. The image was captured, spread across networks. The message was clear. Unity was dead. The old alien who had once warned of human departure sat in silence. His 4 eyes dim, he whispered words that few could hear. The Council was never strong. It was only held together by the fear of humans. Without them, we are nothing but rivals in the same room. His words were drowned out by the shouting, by the collapse of order. On distant colonies, governors declared independence. Some pledged allegiance to regional alliances, others to powerful warlords rising in the chaos. For the first time in centuries, the map of the galaxy was breaking apart, lines redrawn by greed and fear. And through it all, the humans remained silent, their fleets hidden in the void, watching. They knew the galaxy would soon call for them again. But humanity was in no rush. They had made their warning clear. They had walked away. The Council thought it could survive without them. Now the galaxy itself was beginning to fall apart. The first fracture had broken the Council's mask. What lay beneath was not unity, but weakness. And weakness never lasted. Long in a galaxy filled with predators, the rumors of dark ships moving at the edges of the galaxy were no longer whispers. They had become hard reports carried by terrified traders and broken survivors. A convoy from the eastern rim limped into port with half its ships missing. The survivors spoke of a fleet unlike anything they had ever seen. Enormous warships with black hulls that seemed to drink the light around them. Their weapons tore through shields as if they were air. Their fighters moved with inhuman precision. The invaders had come. At first the Council refused to believe it. In the Grand Chamber, the silver-skinned delegate rose again, his voice cold and arrogant. These are only stories, pirates with stolen technology. Do not let fear rule you. But even as he spoke, another delegate, scarred and limping, threw down a recording device. The chamber went silent as the image played. A vast black ship loomed in the void, its hull bristling with weapons that glowed red like fire. In moments, it destroyed an entire escort fleet, burning ships vanishing one by one in silent flashes of light. The chamber erupted. Some delegates screamed in fear. Others shouted for war. The old reptilian envoy slammed his claws down. You see now what you have done. We begged the humans to stay, and you drove them away. These invaders would not have dared if Earth's fleet still stood at our side. His words were met with silence. For the first time, no one laughed at the mention of humans across the galaxy. Alarms sounded. Entire sectors fell within weeks. The invaders did not negotiate. They did not speak. They only advanced, swallowing. World after world, their ships were like shadows spreading across starlit maps. The Council ordered fleets to gather, but the fleets were fractured. Some obeyed, some refused. Old rivalries flared again. Why should we bleed for your colonies? Cried one race. Protect your own. The cracks widened as the invaders pushed deeper. On the frontier, the first great battle was fought. Hundreds of Council ships gathered to make a stand at the Corin system. They formed a massive wall of steel and fire, confident that numbers alone would crush the enemy. But when the Black Fleet arrived, confidence turned to terror. The invaders moved with perfect coordination. Their weapons shredded through Council formations. Their massive warships advanced without slowing. Each explosion lit the void as entire squadrons were erased in moments. The proud Council armada collapsed into chaos, commanders argued. Fleets fled in panic. By the end of the day, Corin burned. News spread faster than light. Civilizations that had once laughed at humans now trembled in silence. Fear ate through markets, schools, and homes. Parents whispered to their children about the coming storm. Soldiers stared at empty skies, wishing for the sight of Terran dreadnoughts that would never appear. The galaxy had mocked humanity's warning. Now they prayed for humans to return. But the humans did not come. In the void far from Council space, Admiral Carter stood on the bridge of the Iron Resolve. His officers watched the same reports with grim faces. "They are falling," whispered one captain. "The invaders will take everything." Carter's face was like stone. "They chose this path," he said. "They spat on our warnings. They laughed when we left. If we return now, they will only repeat the same arrogance." Back in the council chamber, panic ruled. Delegates screamed at each other, "Send more fleets, protect the core worlds, sacrifice the frontier." Every race demanded safety for itself. No one offered aid to another. The great chamber that once claimed to unite the galaxy had become a den of cowards. Each day, fewer delegates arrived. Some worlds had already fallen, their leaders dead or enslaved. Their seats sat empty, shadows stretching over polished crystal floors. On the ground, civilians suffered the most. Entire cities were dragged into slavery, families torn apart. The invaders were merciless. Their black ships hung over planets like executioners. When resistance rose, the invaders crushed it with orbital fire. Worlds screamed for help, but only silence answered. The old alien who had warned so many times sat with his head bowed. His voice cracked as he spoke to no one in particular. "It is too late. The humans were the wall, and we destroyed it with our pride. Now the storm has come. And yet not all were ready to surrender." Whispers spread in the dark corners of the galaxy, whispers of Terran fleets still moving somewhere. Beyond known space, watching, waiting, the Council began sending desperate signals, begging humanity to return, begging for salvation. But no reply came. Only silence. The invaders pressed deeper, their fleets unstoppable, their shadow spreading. Across the stars and in that growing darkness, the galaxy understood the terrible truth. Without humans, the Council was nothing. And now the Council's fall had truly begun. The first battles against the invaders left scars that would never fade. Corran was gone. Entire fleets were ash. And still the Council pretended they could stand tall. In the Grand Chamber, the surviving delegates shouted over one another, promising victory with empty words. But out in the void, their ships burned. The invaders pressed deeper into Council space, their black warships advancing like a storm. Every world they touched was left in ruin, cities silenced, skies filled with fire. They did not speak, did not negotiate. They only destroyed and consumed. The Council tried to rally their fleets again and again, but each time they broke under the weight of the enemy. On the bridge of the Council's flagship Valoria, Admiral Sendor, a veteran of 100 campaigns, watched his formation collapse. Ships under his command fled without orders. Squadrons argued on open channels. "We are not dying for your world," one commander snarled before jumping to faster than light, leaving an entire flank exposed. The invaders surged into the gap, tearing through the fleet like claws through cloth. Sendor slammed his fist against the console. He had seen war before, but never an enemy like this. On the frontier colonies, the fear turned into despair. Civilians huddled in shelters listening to distant thunder as enemy bombardments shook the ground. They sent desperate messages to the Council. "Help us, save us, the humans would have come." But no help arrived. The Council had fleets but no unity. Each power cared only for its own borders. They left the smaller races to die, in hidden bunkers across alien worlds. Old stories of humans were whispered again. Parents told children of the Battle of Draxus, where human dreadnoughts had stood unbroken against impossible odds. Miners spoke of Terran Marines who had once landed on their colonies, driving off raiders with courage no other soldiers could match. Even those who had hated Earth admitted the truth in quiet voices. If the humans were here, this would not be happening. Back in the chamber, the divisions grew worse. Delegates accused each other of betrayal. One reptilian slammed his claws, down hissing, "You left my worlds to burn." Another shouted, "You refused to send ships to us first." The silver-skinned delegate, once so arrogant, now looked pale and shaken. His voice trembled. Perhaps we should reach out to Earth. The room froze. For the first time, no one laughed at the idea. Messages were sent. Fleets of couriers across the void. Each carried the same desperate words. Humans, we need you. The Council begs for some, but the transmissions fell into silence. No answer came. Humanity had walked away and they did not return. On the Terran dreadnought Iron Resolve, Admiral Carter listened to the messages without speaking. His officers waited. Some begged him to reply. They are dying, sir. Entire worlds are falling. Carter's jaw tightened. And where were they when our warnings were mocked? Where were they when they spat on our ships? We will not be their shield again, not until we choose. His words echoed through the bridge like iron. The fleet remained silent. Meanwhile, the Council tried to fight without humans. They built massive fleets, thousands of ships gathering to hold the line at the Jorith expanse. Their banners shone, their weapons charged, hope flickered once more. But when the Black Fleet arrived, hope turned to ashes. The invaders cut through the formations with merciless precision. Council ships collided in confusion. Commanders shouted conflicting orders. Panic spread like fire. Soon the Great Armada broke apart, fleeing in every direction. The Jorith expanse was lost. The galaxy trembled. Worlds began surrendering to the invaders without a fight. Better slaves than dead, their leaders whispered. Entire civilizations bent the knee, believing no power could stop the enemy. The Council's voice grew weaker, its chamber half empty, its fleets shattered, its people hopeless. The old alien elder sat in silence, his staff heavy in his hands. His voice cracked as he whispered, "This is the war without humans. This is the war we asked for." No one argued. They knew it was true. In hidden corners of the galaxy, survivors prayed for a miracle. They prayed for Earth. They prayed for the return of the ships that had once stood like giants in the dark. But in the cold silence of space, the Terran fleets only watched. They saved their strength. They remembered the insults. And they knew the Council had to face the price of its arrogance. The war without humanity had begun, and the galaxy was losing. The great chamber of the Council was once filled with light, banners of every race hanging high, voices of 1,000, species rising together. Now it was half empty, the banners torn or removed. Seats stood vacant, abandoned by worlds already conquered or fled. The crystal walls that once glowed with pride now echoed with shouting, anger, and fear. The Council was broken. Delegates screamed at each other, blaming one another for every defeat. A scaled warrior pounded his fists against the desk. "You betrayed us at Jorith. You left the flank open." Another hissed back. "Your fleets fled first. Do not speak of honor." Two insectoid envoys leapt at each other, claws clashing until guards dragged them apart. The chamber that was supposed to lead the galaxy had become nothing more than a pit of fighting rivals. Outside those walls, the galaxy was falling. The invaders pressed deeper with every cycle. Planetary defenses failed. Colonies went dark. Millions were enslaved. Entire races wiped away. The proud fleets of the Council were shattered, fragments scattered across the stars. Some commanders ignored orders completely, swearing loyalty only to their homeworlds. Others turned pirate, preying on their own neighbors for survival. Civilians no longer trusted the Council. On frontier worlds, riots erupted. People smashed statues of Council leaders, shouting that the Council had abandoned them. In the streets, the same words were whispered over and over. The humans would never have let this happen. That thought cut deeper than any weapon, for even those who hated Earth once now admitted what they had lost. The old reptilian elder who had warned them so many times sat slumped in his chair. His voice was weak, but his words were sharp. "You built nothing on trust, you built everything on fear of humans. Without them you are nothing, and now the galaxy bleeds for your pride." His voice was drowned out by shouting, but those near him listened, and their eyes were full of regret. Across the chamber, the silver-skinned delegate, once the loudest critic of humanity, now looked pale and broken. He stood slowly, his voice trembling. "We must beg for their return, send more messages, offer them anything, riches, power, sovereignty, whatever they demand. Without humans we cannot survive." His words should have been bold, But instead they were desperate. They revealed what everyone already knew. The council was dying. Messages had already been sent, endless pleas transmitted across the void, begging humanity to return, begging for their fleets, begging for their soldiers. But the silence never broke. Humanity had not answered. Humanity had not returned. On the Terran flagship, Iron Resolve, Admiral Carter listened to the desperate calls. His officers watched him with uneasy eyes. Some wanted to answer, some wanted to help. But Carter's voice was steady, hard as steel. They mocked us. They spat on us. They believed they were stronger without us. Now they see the truth. If we move now, we only rebuild their arrogance. Let them fall. Let them remember this pain. His words were final, and the fleet remained still. Back in the galaxy, the council began to eat itself. Delegates no longer trusted one another. Armies turned against supposed allies. Entire fleets were redirected not to fight the invaders but to seize resources from neighbors. In one system, 2 council races fired on each other's ships in front of the enemy. The invaders did not even have to strike. They simply watched. As the council destroyed itself, on planets where once hope had lived, despair reigned. Families fled underground. Leaders vanished. Even the once mighty capital of the council grew quiet, its shining towers dim under black smoke. More and more worlds declared independence, refusing to send ships or taxes. The council is dead, they said. We will fend for ourselves. The union of the galaxy was shattered. Inside the chamber, fewer and fewer seats were filled. The shouting grew weaker, replaced by silence. The leaders who remained looked old, tired, and hopeless. They remembered the laughter when the humans walked away. They remembered how easily they dismissed the Terran ambassador's warning. Now they could not escape the weight of those words. In the quiet moments between battles, survivors told stories. Stories of Terran fleets. Stories of dreadnoughts that turned the tide of impossible wars. Stories of human soldiers who fought until the last breath to defend allies who were not even their own kind. Those stories spread faster than the Council's broken orders, and in those stories a dangerous idea was reborn. Maybe only humanity could save them. Maybe only Earth still had the strength. But humanity remained silent, watching from the shadows, letting the galaxy bleed, letting the Council fall. The Council was broken, not by the invaders alone, but by its own pride and betrayal. And as the black fleets advanced further into the stars, the galaxy learned the terrible truth. Without humans, there was no unity, no order, no hope. The Council had fallen apart, and nothing could put it back together. Far beyond Council space, in the dark reaches where no alien dared to look, the Terran fleets drifted in silence. 1,000 ships moved as one, their hulls black against the stars, their engines dim to shadows. They were not absent. They were waiting. Humanity had not been destroyed. Humanity had chosen to watch. On the flagship Iron Resolve, Admiral Carter stood at the command table. His officers read report after report. Worlds burned, fleets shattered, civilians enslaved. Still the Council begged, still the transmissions poured in. Every signal carried the same desperate message. Please, Earth, return. Save us. We will do anything. Carter's face did not change. His eyes were fixed on the stars as he spoke in a voice like iron. They laughed at us. They told us we were not needed. They forced us to walk away. Now they see the truth. But we will not rush to save them. Not this time. The officers were divided. Some clenched their fists, anger burning in their eyes. Admiral, they are dying, innocent worlds, children, families. Should we let them fall because of the arrogance of their leaders? Carter's gaze turned sharp. Would they have spared us? Do you remember their laughter when we warned them? Do you remember the insults, the demands that we disarm our fleets? If we save them now, they will forget. They will spit on us again. His words weighed heavy, silence filling the bridge. Meanwhile, the invaders pressed deeper. Their black warships now reached systems near the Council's core. Entire civilizations collapsed, refugees flooded across the stars, carrying tales of horror. Still, the Council chamber shouted with empty words. its members too broken to command, too afraid to act. For the first time in history, races that once claimed supremacy admitted the truth in whispers. Only the humans can stop them. And then the humans moved. Not for the council, not for the chamber of liars, but for the people. The Terran fleets appeared in sudden flashes of light across frontier systems, not to hold ground, but to save lives. They struck with precision, overwhelming invader ships in minutes. Their dreadnoughts unleashed storms of fire that split apart vessels thought indestructible. But instead of staying, instead of claiming victory, the Terrans withdrew just as quickly as they came, carrying survivors aboard their massive ships, evacuating colonies before vanishing back into the dark. The galaxy watched in awe. Refugees spoke of humans appearing from nowhere, destroying invader fleets in seconds and then leaving without a word. They did not raise flags. They did not claim planets. They saved and disappeared, like ghosts in the void. Hope returned to many, but fear grew in the council, for they realized the truth. Humanity was no longer their shield. Humanity was no longer theirs to command. In the chamber, the silver-skinned delegate rose once more. His proud arrogance was gone. His voice shook as he shouted, "We must kneel to them. We must offer them everything. Without Earth, we are finished." Others agreed, whispering of surrendering full control to humanity, but some still resisted. "If they wished to rule, they would already have done so," one shouted. "Perhaps they will let us die and build their own empire on our ashes." The chamber erupted again, but deep down they all knew the same truth. The choice was no longer theirs. It was humanity's. Back on the Iron Resolve, Carter watched the Council's messages, endless pleas repeating across his screens. He turned to his captains. "They will beg until their voices are gone, but Earth will not answer their council. We will save who we choose, when we choose, and no one else." A younger officer asked softly, "And when they are gone, what then?" Carter's eyes narrowed. "Then the galaxy will remember, and they will never mock us again." The invaders felt the sting of Terran steel and began to hesitate. They had expected the galaxy to crumble, and it was. But now their scouts whispered of human dreadnoughts lurking in the void, striking without warning. Entire fleets lost without explanation. The invaders realized what the Council had always feared. Humanity was not gone. Humanity was waiting. Humanity was choosing its moment. On burned worlds where survivors were lifted, aboard Terran ships, aliens wept in gratitude. They saw human soldiers carrying their children, human medics tending their wounded. Not once did the humans speak of the Council. Not once did they demand loyalty. They acted on their own terms, free of the broken chamber. For the first time, the galaxy began to see humanity not as servants, not as enforcers, but as something else, something greater. The Council's last hope flickered. They had nothing left to offer. Their fleets were gone, their unity shattered, their power a hollow shell. In the end, their survival depended on one truth. Humanity's choice, and humanity had made it. They would not kneel to the Council, they would not be commanded. They would stand apart, deciding with their own hands who lived and who died. The galaxy had begged, and the humans had answered, not with words, but with silence and steel. The galaxy was no longer the same. The proud Council, once a symbol of unity, was a ghost of itself. Its chamber sat in ruins, banners torn, seats empty. The once endless noise of shouting delegates had faded into silence. Only a few frightened voices remained, clinging to power that no longer mattered. The Council had fallen. Across the stars, the invaders ruled half the galaxy. Their black fleets hung over conquered worlds like vultures. Cities burned, skies turned red with fire. Billions were enslaved, entire species wiped away. What remained of the Council's fleets hid in fragmented pieces, scattered and leaderless. Some worlds swore loyalty to the invaders, hoping for mercy. Others shut their borders, waiting for death. Yet in the shadows another force moved. The Terran fleets, silent and unseen. Their dreadnoughts appeared without warning, striking like lightning, breaking invader armadas apart. They never stayed, never raised flags, they only saved who they chose. evacuating the innocent, leaving the guilty behind. To many, humanity became a legend, a ghost in the void. Stories spread of battles where human warships appeared from nowhere, destroyed the enemy, and vanished again before the smoke cleared. On one frontier world, a young child watched as a Terran Marine lifted her from the rubble of a burning city. She asked, her voice small and broken, "Will you stay?" The soldier shook his head gently. "No, little one, but you are safe now." Then he carried her aboard the great ship before it vanished into the stars. For survivors, these moments became holy, proof that humanity had not abandoned the galaxy completely. But the Council was different. Every plea, every cry for help from its chamber was ignored. Humanity did not answer them. Humanity saved the weak, the powerless, the forgotten, but not the rulers who had mocked them. The Council's power was gone. Its name became a curse. In the streets, people spat when they spoke of it. They told their children the truth. The Council failed us, but the humans did not. In the ruins of the chamber, the old reptilian elder sat alone, his staff broken beside him. He had warned them all, and now there was nothing left. His voice cracked as he whispered into the emptiness. "They were the wall, and we tore it down. May the stars forgive us." No one answered. No one remained to hear him. Meanwhile, the invaders hesitated. For the first time, their perfect advance slowed. They had thought the galaxy theirs. But humanity was still out there, striking where least expected. Their black fleets began moving more cautiously, their commanders wary. They realized what the Council had learned too late. Humans could not be defeated easily. Back on the Terran flagship Iron Resolve, Admiral Carter stood before the stars. His officers waited. Some wanted to unleash the full fleet, to burn the invaders out of the galaxy. Others wanted to remain in the shadows, striking and vanishing. Carter's voice was steady. "We will not save the Council. That chapter is finished. But we will not allow the galaxy to fall entirely. We choose who lives and who remembers. Our silence is our answer. Our strength is our warning." The words spread through the Terran fleet. Soldiers nodded. Pilots clenched their fists. Humanity would not kneel. Humanity would not serve. Humanity would act on its own terms. The Council had fallen apart. But Earth had risen higher. On conquered worlds, whispers turned into belief. Children asked their parents if the humans would come. Refugees spoke of Terran dreadnoughts moving like shadows. Entire fleets destroyed in minutes. They began to pray not to gods, not to the Council, but to Earth. For many, humanity had become more than an ally. They had become the saviors of the galaxy, yet humanity remained silent. Their fleets roamed unseen. Their soldiers acted without speeches or demands. They needed no thanks, no throne. They only left behind a lesson, one that every alien now carried in their hearts. Do not mock Earth. Do not betray humanity. For once they walk away, nothing can hold the galaxy together. The Council was remembered only in ruins, its name spoken as a warning of arrogance. But the humans were remembered as something else, the only force strong enough to choose their own path, the only species feared and respected in equal measure. The galaxy had begged for their return, but humanity had answered with silence and steel. And in the endless dark between stars, Terran warships waited, their engines low, their weapons ready, watching. Humanity had not abandoned the galaxy. They were preparing for the day when they would return, not as servants of a council, but as masters of their own destiny. The Council had fallen, but humanity remained, and that truth alone reshaped the galaxy forever.